Well, things just got real for the Eagles after a couple big-time updates, including what on earth is going on with A.J. Brown missing practice. Meanwhile, the Packers are playing mind games thanks to some cryptic responses about Jordan Love's injury as well as a few others. But let's get to the bottom of how serious they actually are. And why did Howie Roseman just sign another safety and activate a defensive tackle? Plus, there's one area that's not getting talked about enough, but is clear that it could be a game changer versus Green Bay. So let's talk about it. But first, let's run it. What's up, guys? Let's just get right into it. Jalen Hurts is back, as we got a first look at QB1 on the practice field Wednesday. Or actually, it was the link, since Nick Sirianni said the NovaCare field was frozen. Plus, in case you missed it earlier in the week, the Eagles ripped up all of the field and replaced it with new sod to be ready to go for the playoffs. Now, honestly, anything is better than what the fellas had to play on in week 1 in Brazil. But again, the best news of the past week is that Mr. Breed of One was back in an Eagles jersey, and wearing a helmet, by the way. Which obviously with a concussion protocol is good news, as well as he was getting in some throws, going through drills, and running the offense. Granted, it was in limited capacity, but just to be out there for his first day was a huge win. Even though, for the record, there were some wild takes arguing that Jalen isn't a difference maker and doesn't exactly move the needle. I'll let you guess who was drumming up that line of thinking. Regardless, are we just forgetting how Hurts played in the 22 playoffs? With a sprained shoulder, mind you, and in particular in the Super Bowl with some of the throws he made. I mean, the dude has a 49-27 all-time record, so I, for one, am feeling much better with him being back.
I don't know about you, but I take comfort in that. It's good knowing he's out there, the dude.
You know why? You say I can't.
Hurts looking end zone for Smith and makes the adjustment. Touchdown! Hurts design run wide open up the middle too. Hurts makes a man miss.
Steps up, he lets it go, and it is caught into the touchdown. A.J. Brown.
I'm sorry, no offense to the other backups, but the Eagles are just different with QB1. And also, for those wondering if we might see some rust out of Jalen since he'd sat out for so long, it's so far so good.
Well, the question that everyone is asking is, how did Jalen look, and how do you think he felt out there?
You had to ask him how he felt. My eyes, he looked good.
And I think everyone is a little worried about the timing, him just not playing for a couple of weeks. Do you expect that to even be an issue this week?
It'll be all right. We'll figure it out.
Sharp today. He looked really good.
What's different about this team when he's there?
Man, you just have a very dynamic player. Obviously, can make all the throws, but when he's in their package as a part of our run game, he puts defenders in a bind and makes it a lot more difficult for them.
Is it kind of a boost when he gets out there today for you guys?
Oh yeah, man. I was telling him he looked really sharp. It was really like his first time back, full speed, and we had a crisp practice. He's been dialed in. He's been limited what he can do physically, obviously, but mentally he's sharp and on top of stuff.
Sharp. He looked sharp. I'll be honest. Looked really sharp. Brought a lot of energy. He was out there in short sleeves. I've been in his position before with concussion, and when you miss time, you try and find ways to get back as fast as you can. But I think he did a great job of dealing with that and coming back as sharp as he did today. And I thought he had a phenomenal practice.
Let's go. Love to hear that, and love to see Jalen Hurts at practice wearing what appears to be no more splint or wrap on his broken finger. So shout out to those of you suggesting that perhaps the blessing in disguise of the concussion was to also heal up that finger. Either way, Philly is in a great position with their QB. Now, Green Bay, on the other hand, aren't anywhere close to saying that, and could have some trouble at quarterback as well. However, before I get to that, I want to mention the sponsor of today's video, Underdog. Because with them being the official sponsor of the channel, you won't find any better promos, discounts, or bonus cash than when you sign up with my code PHILLYSPECIAL. All you gotta do is scan the QR code or just click the link in the description, and when you use code PHILLYSPECIAL, you'll get a special pick in the lobby and up to $1,000 bonus cash for this weekend's games. Seriously, they make it super easy to go through the app, make a couple picks, apply a ridiculous bonus, and then you can win big. Plus, if you haven't joined yet, you can get in on their new game called Streaks, where you start out by making 2 picks, and then if those picks green, then all you gotta do is make 1 pick at a time until you hit 11 in a row. Which if and when you do that, you can win up to $30,000. But I know if you're in Pennsylvania or some other states that don't offer the pick'em options, don't worry, because you can still play the draft games because Underdog's got something for everyone. Just draft a lineup like you would in regular fantasy and compete with thousands of other players for some insane weekly payouts. Again, scan the QR code, use code Philly Special, or just click the link in the description and you can get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. That's code Philly Special to unlock your special pick in the lobby and take advantage of the best option in fantasy sports with the crazy promos and discounts. Anyway, while the Eagles are just about at full strength and in good shape, Green Bay is dealing with several key injuries. First off, you're probably very well aware by now that Christian Watson tore his ACL and is done for the season. But starting safety Javon Bullard is dealing with an ankle injury and been limited at practice recently, as well as rookie linebacker Edgerrin Cooper, who was limited on Wednesday due to an illness and lingering knee issue. And then there was starting linebacker Quay Walker, who's also taking it easy, since he's listed with an ankle injury as well and got in a limited practice. By the way, the Packers have multiple other guys on defense in both backup safeties and backup defensive tackle Brenton Cox, who either didn't practice or were limited. Now, the thought is that the vast majority of these guys are going to play on Sunday, but it's still noteworthy when you consider the fact that they are banged up and Philly is very healthy. Of course, I'm sure some of you might have seen the news from Tim McManus that A.J. Brown left practice early on Wednesday. And he also wasn't available today either.
Not like this.
Okay, so apparently you can take a deep breath because according to Jeff McClain, A.J. Brown will play on Sunday. It's just that he's been dealing with a knee injury, so the Eagles are giving him an extra day off to make sure he's as close to 100% on Sunday. Look, I could analyze this thing and say, hey, what do the Eagles do if they don't have A.J. Brown? Yes, there's a big difference there, but he's going to be fine. We've seen this a number of times. He's had some knee injuries, some concerns. You give him some rest, he will be okay. Either way, I mean, Green Bay's dealing with a similar thing with Jordan Love. You don't know what's going on. Because typically the media gets to see quarterbacks warm up, just like Philly does for Jalen. However, according to Tom Silverstein and others, Jordan Love didn't throw while the media was present, and then the Packers closed practice, which on one hand is maybe not nothing, especially when you think about the injury to Love's throwing hand and elbow that he suffered against Chicago. Yet the more that you look into this thing, it feels like Matt LaFleur is just trying to keep that competitive advantage.
Was Jordan able to throw it all, Matt?
Yeah, he was limited. Yeah, on a limited basis.
We'll see. Yeah, I'm hopeful.
Hey, Jordan, I didn't hear the first part, but do you have feeling back in? Is it back fully or
yes.
close?
Yes.
So, Jordan, why did they limit you?
Just based on my hand, getting back to it.
So if the feeling's back, does it still hurt in any way, or how is it affecting you at practice today?
Yeah, it's more my elbow. Just covering that.
If you had to cut loose today, do you think you could have?
Cut loose, as in?
Just let her rip.
Yeah, I'll throw, my normal, I don't know what you mean by that, sorry.
Come on, he's going to play. I mean, do you guys really think there's anything more to this? For the record, Love got in more work with the media being able to watch, and he looks perfectly fine. So I don't think there's any doubt he'll be out there leading the pack. The only thing that I'd throw out there, no pun intended, is perhaps his grip is slightly impacted this weekend due to the cold. Heck, it's difficult to grip the ball in the cold when you're not dealing with an injury. Regardless, while that's a bit odd and the Packers aren't tipping their hand, the Eagles did something kind of unexpected themselves after announcing that they've signed safety Lewis Cine to their active roster, while also activating defensive tackle Byron Young's 21-day practice window. But let's start with Cine. In case you're not as up-to-date on him, he's a former first-round pick by the Minnesota Vikings in the 2022 NFL Draft out of Georgia. And I'll be honest, this is a guy that I was very high on and very much wanted the Eagles to somehow land. I mean, just about all the major draft profile grades gave him a starter potential. Plus, if you watched any Georgia games, you know this dude was an enforcer, showcasing the ability and willingness to come down and deliver a hit on the ball carrier or receiver. It's just that unfortunately, he suffered a compound fracture his rookie season where he only played 3 games. And then the following year, he only got in on 7 games. Granted, the vast majority of those snaps he got in was just on special teams before Minnesota eventually waived him. Now, as most former first-round picks do, Cine was signed quickly by Buffalo, but didn't really get a chance to show anything and remained on their practice squad. This is where the odd part comes in, though, because teams late in the season trying to make a playoff run don't necessarily go out and sign someone on a whim. But okay, understandably, Howie Roseman has an interest in Philly dogs. However, by signing Cine to the active roster, Philly gives him a guaranteed 3-week salary and, more importantly, counts against the 53-man roster for at least 3 weeks, like regardless of if the Birds waived him before then. So it's definitely a gamble and an odd time to make this move. However, long-term ramifications, I actually like it. I'm curious about you guys, though. Yes, no, indifferent? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, the other roster move I mentioned is Byron Young had his practice window opened, although this one isn't as locked into something as the Cine move, since Young has basically just been a glorified practice squad member and hasn't been active for a single game. Plus, seeing the current health on the squad, it's likely that Philly is just getting Young ready just in case they suffered an injury and needed someone on the interior. Otherwise, if not, they don't have to activate him and can just keep him on the IR or shut him down for the season. Heck, with as many snaps as Jalen Carter's been playing lately, there hasn't been much of a need for depth at defensive tackle. which is understandable when you've got a guy who was voted on by NFL players as the first-team All-Pro at DT. By the way, Saquon was also voted as the top running back by the players. Although technically, because I had the same questions myself, I've seen all these different All-Pro awards and nominations and everything else. Even this one doesn't count, but it has a little bit more weight because it's actually voted on by the players instead of, the PFF ones or all the others that you've seen out there. I will say, just keep an eye out for the AP announcement since that's the official All-Pro award. Speaking of winning, congrats to Dakota Warren for winning the Eagles playoff ticket giveaway via the randomized spinner on the last live stream. It's just that, Dakota, I still haven't heard from you. So I need you to contact me at thephillyspecialshow@gmail.com so that I can get the tickets to you. By the way, for everyone else, do me a favor and drop a like on this video and make sure to subscribe and turn the notifications on. Because if I don't hear back from Dakota by the time I do my Friday night live stream, then those tickets are going to someone else. And let's just say at that point, Dakota's regret will probably be more than Nakobe's from week 1 against the Pack.
We made some good plays, but it was a lot of plays that it was like, oh, it almost made me want to throw up in the sense. Like as far as it's not like we weren't playing our standard that we built and we had to build throughout the year for ourselves.
I've seen some concern lately about Matt LaFleur's teams being 15-2 against the spread as underdogs. And while, yeah, that doesn't necessarily mean the Eagles would lose, I do think there's one area that Sirianni has to make a move, and that's letting Jake Elliott do kickoffs. After all, we saw Elliott go 7 for 7 when he took over for the kickoff duties. Plus, when you account for the colder weather and needing to kick it deep on special teams, it's the perfect solution with Jake. Oh yeah, the other aspect that we mentioned a lot is there's no substitute for being able to get on the field, kick the ball, be able to see the wind direction, how it's affecting it, everything else in that direction. So especially if this game is a close one, Jake's going to need to make every point count. I mean, look on the other side. The Packers kicker Brandon McManus went 19 for 20 this season at a 95% clip. All I'm saying is, how many times have we seen a playoff game come down to the final kick? Curious to hear from you guys, though. How much of an actual concern do you think this is for Sunday's game? Really quickly, I'll just throw out there another roster move because it came in late, but the Birds also signed quarterback Ian Book back to the practice squad and released defensive back Mekhi Garner, which makes sense given the Lewis Cine signing. However, I still don't think this directly impacts Kenny Pickett yet, since you technically can't be the emergency quarterback unless you're on the active 53-man roster. Anyway, just something I wanted to throw out there. Also, I just want to say thank you because the channel's almost at 100,000 subscribers, which is absolutely nuts, and I've got a crazy, ridiculous announcement coming whenever we get there. So do me a favor, hit that sub button if you haven't already, turn those notifications on, and I'll catch you on the live stream. This has been The Philly Special.